everybody, and welcome to the Fortress of Comic News, episode 182. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside. Please, when he's walking down the streets of New York, don't punch him in the face, Mike.
Oh, man. You know, out of all the random acts of violence to be happening in the world, Rick Moranis, people, listen, I want Rick Moranis back in movies as badly as everybody else does. But you punch this guy in the face, he's not coming back to movies anymore.
So, this is the political statement. This is just people. But, like, people got more worked up about Rick Moranis getting, like, sucker punched in the streets of New York.
Right.
Than they did about Trump getting corona. Like, literally, the news coverage was, like, double.
Oh, yeah. Because, number one, it distracts us from everything else going on in the world. Number two, Rick Moranis was in Spaceballs, ladies and gentlemen. That man is a national treasure. You do not
took the words out of my mouth. National treasure.
Yeah, it is a bipartisan agreement that Rick Moranis be protected at all. If there's probably a bill in the Constitution right now that says protect Rick Moranis at all costs, he might make another Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 2025 or something.
Listen, I'm calling on all senators, congressmen, and the President of the United States to pass a bill to condemn all hate groups against Rick Moranis. I think that should be what we should focus on right now.
You know, you wouldn't think he'd have to do that. And here's a guy like that made his money, did his work, put in his time with several different franchises. Right, we got. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We got Ghostbusters. We got Spaceballs. And we got Little Shop of Horrors, right?
Was he in that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Come on, it's Rick Moranis. I mean, this guy... And then he just... What does he do? He stops making movies to raise his children. Like, how wholesome is that?
That's the American dream right there.
He wants to be a good dad, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to gloat and, and keep making movies and don't stop making movies like I don't know, like Clint Eastwood or whatever the hell. But
I also want to call out national terrorist Ryan Reynolds for bringing him out of retirement and putting the bullseye on him. This is your fault, Ryan.
Yeah,
this in the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, that's he already had that hanging over him. Now he's got this, but. Yeah, Rick Moranis got sucker punched. I can't imagine he got sucker punched because he was Rick Moranis. But I mean, these random acts of violence happen. They're shameful and they're not welcomed. And Rick Moranis, man, I hope you're okay. I know he had to go to the hospital and stuff like that. But man, I grew up watching that guy. Like
all jokes aside, like it's a constant thread throughout our show. But like, be better and don't be a piece of shit. Like, is that really that hard?
Just don't punch people. If you want to go home, punch a wall. You know what I mean? Or like, I don't know.
Listen, I offered this up to my boss, who got very mad and started punching steel poles, which ended up badly for him. I have Megatron punching bags that look like the Megatron from the movies, so you can get extra mad at them.
Oh my god!
I will send them out to somebody if they need something to punch. I'm just saying, like
this cinematic accuracy is not what I wanted. punch. I don't even. Where's his head? I can't even tell. Is this a Decepticon? I don't fucking know.
It's just a glob of metal. What the fuck?
It's just a smoke monster, but he's a metal monster. Anyways, welcome to the show, everyone. We don't have an interview. We're just talking about Rick Moranis the whole episode. Anyways, hey Rick, hope you're doing well. Really sad and shameful. I didn't think America could stoop this low. That's as low as you can go, man. Sucker punching Rick Moranis, like
it's the end times.
It is.
Apocalypse is upon us.
Yep. I guess we'll just jump into the news with that. Before I jump into the news, I do want to give a shout out to the quality of audiobook with the Sandman audiobook. I know I talked about starting that. I am on like episode 11 or 12. I cannot get over how well done this is. I mean, I've read Sandman up through a few volumes, and I think I'm at the point now where I finished the volumes, and now I'm getting past that with audiobook. The quality is like, I mean, you got Andy Serkis doing a variety of characters. That alone, take your money, right? But the music, the background noises, the voice acting, everything is spot on, and it's very cinematic. Even though it reminds me of like one of those old school like Orphan Annie radio shows, like Superman and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down for this for more graphic novels. Like, please do this, DC.
Which we'll talk about later in the show. But real quick, I don't know if you saw, because I don't know if you go through like previews like I do, but the DC Connect, which is DC's previews, they're making a physical version of that too. So like you can get it. I don't know if it's going to be a CD or what it's going to be, but they're going to be able to sell it in comic stores.
Interesting.
Which is pretty cool.
That hopefully that gets that people past that barrier from the comic shop to the audiobooks, and I think it's a great idea because like I would love to.
It's not expensive either.
Really? Yeah.
It was $10. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
How much does it cost to get audio or Audible?
Audible, yeah,
right?
It's like $20 a month, and you get like a But I for sure like if they did one for like Kingdom Come and stuff like that. Oh yeah, I'd listen to Kingdom Come.
And so I want to also apologize to every guest we've ever had because I've been doing interviews recently, and being on the other side of an interview is fucking weird, dude.
Is it?
Weird. Because we've been interviewing people forever, and it's I think we do a decent job of it. I even said on one of the shows.
Anyway.
I even said on one of the shows that I've always felt that our job as an interviewer is to facilitate somebody else telling their story more than anything else. Like that's what we're there for. And
you got to keep them on the idea of like we're here to promote whatever they want to promote. Like let's circle back to.
But there was a few times where I got shot with questions I didn't have an answer for, and I just thought of all the times that I've like come up with a question at the last second and been like, oh yeah, well what about this? What about that? And and it's tough. Like it was weird. It was strange. It was tough. But it was fun.
What would be give me an example? What would be a tough question for you?
So honestly, the toughest question I got, and it's because I haven't thought this far forward past, because I just want to make comics. Someone asked me like how I would cast battle monsters in a movie. Oh, and I couldn't. It took me a minute. I got there, but I had never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Also, there was a whole conversation about whether or not furries had come to support my book or not, and like that kind of threw me off. And so my mind immediately started going off into like the porn version of Battle Monsters.
Oh yeah.
But
wow.
But yeah, like simple questions like that. They're like everybody's thought about that. It's like no, I just wanted to make a comic. I've never thought about it being a movie.
Never thought about the support of the furry community. Yeah, and like okay, so who would be the main character? Would you think like Keanu Reeves?
So what I came down to, and it's because I was trying to. Also, you know me well enough to know that I know like 3 actors.
Yeah, so
I went Tom Holland for Lance, so he would play the lead.
Okay.
The Rock for Drake because Drake is Hawaiian.
Big Jack.
And giant.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, literally, my answer, I didn't know the woman's name, but the Asian woman from S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
Who's also a Mandalorian, I realized after the interview. But, and yeah, that was my casting. It's terrible casting, because I know 3 actors.
But, like, you still need characters for the CGI portion of some of the monsters, right?
It's Andy Serkis. Like that's
Andy Serkis.
And it's CGI. There's only one man you can hire.
Andy Serkis. All of the monsters.
Yeah. It'd be like Planet of the Apes. Like he'll just play all the monkeys. Like,
well, we need the budget to pay Andy Serkis, and then everybody else, we don't have to spend money on anything else. Yeah, and James Gunn's brother.
James Gunn's brother, Will Smith's son.
Yeah.
All the other B actors who are only there because.
Yeah, I was hoping you would have said like Bruce Campbell maybe because he has some experience fighting armies of darkness and. That's
true. Bruce Campbell could be the professor. How about that?
Yeah, and I was thinking Bruce Campbell professor, like the drunk professor that's like, what do you guys want? I think it'd be perfect. Oh, I can see it unfolding now. That's a great cast. Tom Holland and Bruce Campbell opposite each other on screen. Who would not want that? Oh man. A young lad at the beginning of his career, an old man who should have died out years ago. Like, this is great.
And The Rock.
And The Rock. China will love this movie. Oh god.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's been fun though. It's been really fun going on other podcasts.
That's cool.
Especially since they all have acknowledged that I'm also a podcast host. And
Yeah.
it makes me feel good knowing that other people know that I have a podcast.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. They're like, you do that podcast with that asshole guy who doesn't do anything.
You got shout outs, don't worry. You got
I
shout
did?
outs.
Oh. I'll have to listen for that. Well, why don't you pitch it? Can you pitch what a podcast you've been on, or do you...
So one of them doesn't come out for like 2 weeks. So they're all like they record way ahead of time.
So they're really like professional and actually.
Oh, they're way more professional than us. Yeah. One was if you remember Nick Gorman. Yeah, Gorman. We had him on the show. He does a YouTube/podcast show where he records himself drawing and then does kind of an interview over top of it. And he actually recorded himself drawing the pinup he did for Battle Monsters.
Oh, cool.
So he asked me to do it, and I was happy to because Nick's good people.
Yep.
So I think that's a month away, he said, which is weird too because we had some like deep conversations. One about X-Ray Robot and how I'm mad it's not back, and then this week I got to read issue 2.
Yeah.
And then the other one I did recently was I freaking love comics.
Oh, me too.
And yeah, so do I. And they have 3 hosts, which was I don't know. I couldn't do 3 hosts. I don't know if we probably could pull it off.
We've done it. Travis Holyfield's triple hosted with us before.
Travis Gibb, the Travises.
Yeah, Travis Gibb's been on. Yeah.
But they were fun. They're really good, and they're also like one of the I forget the woman's name that's on the show, but she's from Australia. So we got to talk about kangaroos and didgeridoos.
Giant man-eating spiders.
No, and dingo babies. Dingo
babies. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Typical Australian racist shit. So.
Yep. Anybody listening at this point is wondering, has this just been a plug for Battle Monsters for this?
My whole life has been a plug for Battle Monsters, Mike.
And you're damn right it has been. This episode is all about promoting Battle Monsters.
I just want to say, like, being an interviewee is not easy, but it is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been interviewed for podcasts, but I've been interviewed for jobs, and I will say I hate those like questions that you almost know the interviewer doesn't want to ask. I feel like we don't ask a lot of those. We kind of just let people talk and do their thing, and we kind of guide them along the way. We don't do like pre-written questions, but
yeah. At no point in your career do I see someone asking you in an interview, "Have you gotten any support from the furry community?"
Right. Where it's like, I don't want support from them, probably. I mean, me personally, but I'm talking along the lines of like the questions of like, name an incident where you gave 110%, or like, name your biggest weakness. And it's like, what? My weakness is I try too hard, or some bullshit like that. You know what I mean? Like, those are the worst questions to ask people.
Yeah, I hate those because they're so scripted at this point too.
Yeah, they're just non-questions and non-answers.
My weaknesses are also my strengths. Like,
right. And it's like, I feel like we stick to the origin story, and then depending on where that goes, I mean, we can ask a variety. I mean, listen to our last interview, folks. We really didn't have to ask much to talk about that.
That was a great interview.
Yeah,
I almost want to like retire from interviews.
And that's part of the reason we can't do pre-scripted interviews, because like a lot of that stuff's natural. You know what I mean? Like, just telling those stories just kind of flows, and then you get into like, oh, well, you like this fandom, or oh, you want to talk about this more, and I don't know. And that's what you get when you come to Fortress Comic News.
Since we got a vamp for time, no, but peeking behind the curtain for everybody, like, yeah, we've had a few instances where people have wanted to be on the show and maybe don't natively speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've asked for like questions ahead of time. And as much as I think it's happened 3 or 4 times, as much as those books looked interesting and those people were interesting, I was like, it's tough because it's so conversational for us.
Right.
It's so like just I mean, I looked the people up, don't get me wrong, but like for the most part, a lot of the stuff I have written down about the people ahead of time, aren't as important as they end up being in the actual interview, and I like it that way.
Yeah, and then they get into stuff that like exclusive interview stuff that they give us that we don't even expect sometimes. That they want to talk about. So. Yeah, what I'm trying to say is we're very fortunate to be where we are, to have people coming on the show. Very appreciative of it all, but please buy Battle Monsters. And with that, do you want to get into the news?
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for everybody for sticking around if you're still here. Marvel and Disney have found their Kamala Khan for the upcoming Disney Plus series, Ms. Marvel. Iman Vellani will play the teenage Inhuman superhero. If you don't recognize the name, you are not alone. She's a newcomer for the acting world. So that's pretty cool. Some fresh new face on the big screen there.
She is a baby.
Yep.
Because I, am an old man, and anyone under the age of 30 now is a baby to me.
Is a baby.
No, she's like she's a teenager, and I took a look at her, obviously because looking up to see what she's done and everything. I'm just like, she looks like, in my eyes, if you put her in front of me and said, how old is this woman? I would tell you she's like 10.
Yep.
I think she ended up being like 15 or 16.
Well, that's kind of what they did with the new rendition of Ms. Marvel, right? Like, she was that young in the comics.
Yeah, when they introduced Kamala Khan, she is very young.
Yeah.
And so at first I wasn't a fan of Kamala Khan. I didn't check out too much of the stuff that she was in.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea, it was in the middle of like the Inhuman craze at Marvel, and I just didn't care. But then she popped up in Avengers, and she popped up in Champions. And I was like, okay, she's an interesting supporting cast character.
Yep.
And I think honestly, my favorite, or the thing that's made me kind of a fan of hers, is that of Avengers video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's really well done in that. She's still kind of like on that cusp of like 16, 17.
Yep.
But she has almost a fangirl style, but at the same time, like, she's very adult. I really enjoyed that version. So I hope they stick with that and try to fade away from too much of the kiddie nature that she gets into in the comics. But
also the Middle Eastern representation.
Yes, and that's big too. And they actually, that's another thing in the video game that they get into. Like, her costume is very much revolves around her heritage. And she has parts of her suit that are stuff that I'm very ignorant about because I don't have a lot of Middle Eastern people in my life.
Yep.
And I just think it's really cool that that's there. Mm-hmm. And, she's become as popular as she has due to all that too. So I'm down for it.
DC is like, shit, we really got to get Black Adam out of there. We don't have any Middle Eastern representation. we got to do this.
Oh, they got that Green Lantern. Yeah. The gun. That was a good idea, DC.
Yeah.
Here's our Middle Eastern Green Lantern.
Give him a pistol. Gun. He has a gun. Great stuff. Because that's what you want out of your intergalactic police forces, to have a handgun. Anyways, The Boys still going strong. Did you watch it this week?
I did. This was kind of a big episode for the season, and I actually never looked it up. I don't think it's the last episode, but it better fucking not be the last episode.
Yeah, I think it's only episode 7. I don't think they end the season on 7 episodes.
So, Shiny Girl, the Starlight. Thank you. Yep. Starlight gets captured.
Yep.
And Huey has to go and save her, and he gets Lamplighter to help him. And then Lamplighter decides that he's just going to kill himself. So that happens. And there's also an amazing scene of Huey and Lamplighter just sitting around watching porn based on the 7, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
But the A story was actually, that was the C story. The B story was that Butcher went back to home to see his dad before he dies.
Yeah, I know who plays his dad. It's pretty awesome.
And it doesn't end well. And then kind of the A story is that everybody else is trying to get these pieces together to bring a bunch of evidence to Congress against Vought superheroes. And Lamplighter was supposed to be one of those before he decided to kill himself. Mm-hmm. And they ended up getting the ex-Vought COO to Hawk. And he's also the one that basically made Homelander, raised Homelander. So that's the main crux of the whole story. If you don't want spoilers, jump ahead like a minute, because they get there and everybody's there, and actually Homelander's being very polite, and then just heads start exploding. And so they're trying to rush people out. They have a congresswoman who's basically AOC. I mean, that's who they're really pushing her to be like in terms of her real world counterpart. And they're trying to save her. She ends up making it out, but the COO, his head explodes. A bunch of random superheroes' head explodes. It's basically the Red Wedding for this show, without killing a major character.
Right.
And Homelander, it seems like Homelander might be a part of it, because he just kind of stands there with Stormfront, but they don't tell you either way. So basically, their whole plan to go in front of Congress is fucked.
Well, the whole head exploding happens with the CIA person as well. So remember when Mother Milk is talking to the original CIA person, her head explodes. So
that's correct. Yes.
So something's going on.
And there's a few other storylines going. It's kind of a very dense episode. A lot happens. They kind of come up and talk to people. They do a rally with people about the supervillains. The show opens with a way too real sequence with a gentleman going out to buy whatever, beer, coffee, whatever he's going to, and runs into a man who he believes to be a supervillain, shoots him in the face. And yeah, so it's a lot. It's an important episode. It's kind of this is the episode that this season's going to kind of hinge on.
Okay.
So I really liked it. I thought it was great. A lot of good stuff happened.
Cool.
And also, I learned something new about that spin-off show. So apparently, they were supposed to be filming season 3 soon.
Yep.
And anyone that knows production, there's always the scheduling, especially with actors, get them in. And actually, Carl Urban is the reason that this spinoff show might have happened. Because they need a season 3. And right now, not only can Carl Urban not get into the country, but he also has a conflict with another movie coming up. So they were going to push it so that hopefully he could get back into the country, because there's a travel ban in the United States currently.
Right.
And he had to tell them, but I've already committed to this.
Oh.
So I almost wonder if they're going to go through with the spinoff to kind of push season 3 forward a year, maybe.
Yeah, and get everybody still into The Boys.
It's all speculation, innuendo, because you can't do The Boys without Butcher.
Right. I mean, Carl Urban is in high demand. He's such a great actor. So
yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, Boys is awesome.
Movies. Rumors are heating up for the upcoming Spider-Man 3 movie. The MCU movie will be rumored to bring the fan favorite story Enter the Spider-Verse to live action, with the casting of Jamie Electro rumors continue to gain traction. That's cool. If you tell me that Tobey Maguire and big hair British dude are coming back for Spider-Man, and if you tell me that Nick Cage shows up as Spider-Noir, I am so excited. Why not?
I don't know if they're going to go as far as to create new Spider-Man.
Well, yeah.
I could be wrong, but
you can't have an Into the Spider-Verse without I mean, they have to do the other Spider-Man. I can't think of
Miles. You got to bring Miles.
Yeah, you got to bring Miles in, right? Yeah.
That's a huge part of Into the Spider. I mean, Miles is the crux. If you go back to the comics, Miles is the reason Into the Spider-Verse exists.
Right. You got to have Miles.
So I'll be happy if this means that Spider-Man 4 is a Miles movie. I wasn't a fan of Jamie Foxx's Electro, though.
I mean, I didn't care. I don't know. Those movies were all fine to me. Like, if you bring Willem Dafoe back, though, dude, holy shit.
So there's a bunch of rumors spread around about this movie. This is the crux of it. Right. But it's also that they've been building up a Sinister Six. Mm-hmm. So maybe whatever new Avengers we get, we'll fight the Sinister Six. Maybe
if the Sinister Six are like the Spider-Man villains from throughout the Michael Keaton, Willem Dafoe, Jamie Foxx. Oh, Doc Ock, maybe.
So they would have to. So yeah, because they introduced Scorpion
Yeah,
at one point, like as a kind of a throwaway character.
right.
Yeah, they have Vulture. Who's the villain in 2? Mysterio.
Mysterio.
You could do Mysterio. Doc Ock's the key there. You got to introduce new Doc Ock because
Well, who else would find about inter different universe travel, like multiverse travel? Doc Ock could figure it out, I feel like.
yeah. And I just think if you're gonna do Sinister Six, Doc Ock is important. Like he's the linchpin of that group.
Dude, start the movie with a scene from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man with Doc Ock, and then like have him jump into the multiverse or something. Oh my god, please! I love the Raimi Spider-Man movies.
I did like Raimi's Doc Ock. Like that Spider-Man 2 movie was really good. I don't care what anyone says.
I don't think anybody's any movie. Well, Spider-Man 1, but any movie you put Macho Man Randy Savage in and Bruce Campbell, come on, awesome. Bonesaw is ready. That's the most quotable line from any. I don't know why. Every time I hear 3 minutes, it's like a involuntary reaction. I'm like 3 minutes of playtime. You know what I mean? Like you're going nowhere. All right, I'll stop. I'm sorry.
Did you see that somebody found an Easter egg from that movie? Like just 2 weeks ago, maybe.
What was it?
It's so someone during that sequence they have somebody in the stands holding up a sign that says Jumpin' Jack Murdoch.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which just made me smile.
Dude,
Daredevil reference. Come on, like bring it on.
Someone pointed out in the dinner scene that, and I think I brought it up on an earlier podcast, that Osborn and Parker are wearing their opposite colors just in suit form. Yeah, and I was like, I never noticed that. Like Sam Raimi gets it, man. And I just watched Evil Dead last night.
My only complaint.
Yeah.
My only complaint about that movie. I think Willem Dafoe does a great like psychopath. Right. I think he does an okay goblin. Yeah. That sequence where it's them like arguing is just two action. Like they just held 2 action figures up to a camera and were like, meh, 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 meh. It's it's funny. Good movie though. I don't care.
Good. Podcast news.
Holy shit!
What? As part of Warner Brothers' deal with Spotify, DC has announced that their first original audio dramas to come will be Batman Unburied, written by David S. Goyer. So you got a cinematic writer here, and
involved with Batman Begins, I believe.
Yes, yep, and I believe he wrote Man of Steel and Justice League. I think he was on all of those. I believe.
Okay.
He has writing credits for all the DC cinematic stuff. Yeah, so that's interesting. You know, Spotify, I mean, I already get Spotify Premium, so I wonder if I'm going to have to pay any extra, but I'm all down for these audio dramas. I mean, I love podcasts and anything revolving DC, I think, but this is an original story too, which is also interesting.
Which I kind of like. Marvel did it with the Wolverine ones, and I never actually listened to them because I just Wolverine doesn't do it for me. But I would almost prefer that you just write an original story and make it into a audio drama than to just like, as much as you said you would love it earlier, I would prefer that over like Kingdom Come, the audio drama.
Yeah.
Not to say I wouldn't listen to Kingdom Come the audio drama. I'm just saying I would prefer an original story.
I want it all. If they're going to do it all, give me all.
If you can do all, that's fine. If I have to choose between the two, I'm saying original would be better.
There's still a lot of stuff I want to read out there that I haven't, and the audiobook helps me get, like, I never finished Sandman just because of the time. Mm-hmm. And I think I was traveling and I left one of my trades like on a plane somewhere, and I couldn't get myself to like buy it again because I was just so stupid that I left. But anyways, yeah, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to be listening to something it'll be like an audiobook because you're not expecting anything to happen, right? You're just like, what could happen? Yeah.
Now I'm excited for like casting news.
Oh yeah, for voice acting.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis, every character.
Except for Batman's got to be a.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Please, it's got to be Kevin Conroy. Yeah. Damn. I'm thinking about that now. It's getting me excited. Comic news. So we've been talking about this a little bit, and it's created a lot of controversy within the Magic the Gathering scene because I currently play Magic. I'm a big fan. Love all the Magic stuff.
Everybody.
I loved when they. So the issue here is they're making new cards. They're making them Walking Dead themed. They're also making these brand new cards to the scene, and what happens is that usually they'll ban these cards from professional play styles. Like you have different types of Magic that you can play in tournaments. The problem is they're making these cards, and it's part of the Secret Lair series, which is like usually alternate versions of cards that are already out that are popular, but they're cool art variants and they're foil and they're really nice looking. And you pay like a premium for them. You pay like $40 for 4 to 5 cards. I love some of these because they created land cards, which if everybody knows Magic, you use land cards in all your Magic decks. They made Godzilla lands. So I paid $30 for 5 single lands, which is a ridiculous amount, but I had to have them because each land had a picture of Godzilla or like Mothra, and it was like, how do I not buy these for myself?
Yeah.
The problem here is these are new cards introduced into the scene that are completely like unique. There's never been a reprint of them, and they're also very powerful for the play style. So
real quick, what's the news before we get into the minutia of it?
Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about the news. Now I got So the news is they're adding more and more cards each week, and they haven't even. I don't think the sale has started yet. We started with the zombie token cards. Now they're adding characters. So we have Rick, Fearless Leader, I think the name was. We have Negan, the Cold-Blooded, Michonne, Ruthless Survivor, as creature cards. And they've also added Glenn. I forget what Glenn was called. Glenn's been added too. So we've already had like 5 cards. Glenn looks like he's taking a shit in the picture. I'll have to send it to you because it looks awful. Like the pose and the picture of his face they picked. So if you're a Walking Dead fan, this is great. If you're a Magic fan, these cards look awful. They're like, we talked about, it's like digital renditions of like screenshots of the TV show almost.
The 2 I saw. So anyone didn't catch, because I don't know if you said it or not, but these are Walking Dead trading cards, or Magic the Gathering trading cards based on Walking Dead characters.
Yeah.
The pictures I saw looked like, still images that were digitally painted over.
Yeah.
Which I'm not against digitally painting over something. My current business card and profile image is one of those done by my good friend Nigel. But Walking Dead cards are usually like these original art pieces Magic the Gathering cards usually these original art pieces that look fantastic.
Right.
And they're usually done by painters.
Yep.
And these just don't they don't hit that barrier that Magic usually sets.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're a Walking Dead fan, please let us know if you are interested in buying these. But they've released 5 cards now, and I think that's usually the sets are 5 for this. So it's usually 5 for like $30 to $40. So
yeah.
I don't know if it'd be interesting to see how they're going to sell.
And that was my thing. Was I was interested in them, thinking like $10.
Yeah, no way.
$15.
$10 each.
And then you told me like 40, and it's like I'm out.
Yep.
Because they would literally just be like a wall piece or something I put in a collection somewhere.
Yeah, in a drawer.
They wouldn't be. Yeah, I don't play the game, so they have no use to me.
Yep. So that's that. I'm interested to see like when they come out how they end up looking. DC has announced that we're getting an Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 3 on March 9th, 2021. I'm excited for that. I love the first 2 volumes. With the same creative team that did Volumes 1 and 2. And who's that creative team? It is Grant Morrison and Yannick Paquette. I have a fantastic watercolor sketch of Swamp Thing on my wall from Yannick Paquette, and I tell you, one of my favorite. I do. I commissioned it.
Oh,
and it was favorite.
We never talked about that.
Oh, I'll send you a picture. It's one of my favorite original comic art pieces because I love his Swamp Thing run with Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
In the New 52, and his art is amazing. And Yeah, and it was fairly cheap. It was like I don't think I paid more than 50 to $60 for it, and it's like watercolor painted. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was like nobody. He was like up and coming, and I think it was before he did the Wonder Woman volume with Grant Morrison. And I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna be in New York City Comic Con. Can you do me a head sketch of Swamp Thing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to do that." And then he added the color like watercolor to it, and I was like, "This guy is top notch."
So one of the people don't like to admit it, but a lot of good things come out of New 52.
Uh-huh.
One of the great things that came out of New 52 was not only that Swamp Thing run, but also that Animal Man run that Lemire did.
Oh yeah,
that crossed over with each other constantly.
Yep.
But yeah, he has some of the best panel work of anybody in the industry, and because he hand draws all his panels.
Yep.
And he puts like I remember when he's doing the Swamp Thing one, it was all Swamp Thing themed. So it was mossy and grass and flowers.
Yeah, like the panels almost grow sometimes.
Yeah. And then I remember with Volume 1 of Wonder Woman, he did a lot of like chains and different things that went Wonder Woman-y with the book. So I am a big fan of his work too, because not only is his art fantastic, but like the dude puts so much heart and soul into each issue.
Yeah.
I just love it.
I don't know if you remember, he did a Batman annual, I think, or he might have did a story for like when Detective 27. He did some Batman story about like and I remember, I'll never forget, there's like a spread page of like I think Batman goes into his own mind and sees like a multiverse of Batman, and like when you open the splash page, there's just like a universe and all these Batmen, and it's almost like splitting his mind and all these, and it was like one of the best splash pages I've ever seen. And I remember we talked about it, but it was just like, this guy is so good at doing art. I want him to do everything, but probably takes quite a bit to do a page. Grant Morrison on Wonder Woman, it was really good, and he really tries to stay true to the roots of the character and what he thinks she should represent. Also, the vagina ship is cool too. So, or actually, it's like a uterus. The ship is shaped like a whole uterus, I think. I don't know if you remember that.
I zoned out there for a second. I heard uterus.
Yeah. What you don't remember that? There's like a vagina uterus ship.
In what?
In Wonder Woman, Earth 1.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Remember Grant Morrison was like, what was she driving around? Oh yeah, she drove around.
Well, that was one of the great things that Grant Morrison did, was he went back to kind of the origins of Wonder Woman, where like anyone that knows the story behind the creators of Wonder Woman, like they were really into bondage and just freaky sex shit.
Yep.
And a lot of that came out in Wonder Woman. Hence why she's always in chains and she's always bonded together and all this other stuff. Like, so yeah.
Grant Morrison gets it. Well, at least the origins of each character. So this is pretty cool. Recent Fortunes Comic News guest and comic writer David Papose announced that his next title is coming from publisher Aftershock Comics. The series is called Scout's Honor and is about life after the apocalypse, where the Boy Scouts manual becomes the foundation of a strict new doctrine for the world. The series will include art team Luca Castellanguida and Matt Milla. So that's a pretty interesting concept. Like, in a post-apocalyptic world, you're probably not going to rely on the Bible. You're going to rely on something that'll keep you alive, like the Boy Scout manual. And bam, now it's there as your new Bible.
So when I talked to him, he hinted at, like, he didn't say what it was, but he's like, yeah, I'm doing something with publisher. And I remember I said a few, and one of them was Aftershock, and he just kind of smiled and said, I can't say. Which I get it. That's the game. This sounds cool. The art looks amazing. Like the promo images you've been showing, if that's the art in the book, sign me up, because it looks great.
Yeah.
And the dude's just a good writer. He has a couple of books under his belt that people really love. He actually, I think Patton Oswald like recommended one of his books recently.
Mm-hmm.
And Aftershock's a great publisher. I love Aftershock books.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Stephanie Phillips, does a bunch of books there. Colin Bunn does a bunch of books there. Come to think about it, a lot of our guests do books there.
Wait a second.
But they do good stuff, and
Yeah.
this book sounds cool. It sounds. I don't think I've ever heard this idea before. I mean, like the idea of like the apocalypse and there's a new Bible. Yeah, that's happened, but to do the Boy Scouts manual, like that just sounds kind of unique and cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an interesting concept. So good for him.
Yeah. Keep on trucking along, dude.
Yep. And definitely come back to talk about it with us. All right, so let's talk about the comics we read this week. I had quite a bit. I don't know about you.
I have quite a bit. I just didn't read quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Just want to shout out to Represent this week, coming in strong. Okay, Injustice Year Zero, number 7. So this is the Tom Taylor book where he is doing like early Injustice stuff. Yeah, so basically where we left off was Alan Scott, possessed by the Joker, had killed Wesley Dodds, the Sandman. And now he's in a coma. So Batman and Superman are investigating Alan Scott and his partner, and they're trying to investigate like what happened, like why was he on the cameras, and why did he stab why would he stab Sandman? And then Joker, in the meantime, is trying to kill more heroes. So I think they go to Amazing Man's house, and there's this cool thing where like Amazing, I think, can turn into whatever he touches, like whatever material he touches. So like he tries to murder him as the postman, but he's like touching the doorknob, so he can turn himself into brass. Like the doorknob and the bullet doesn't do anything to him. And he's like, oh shit, I messed up. And then he has the mailman kill himself, so he can't answer any questions because he can control people right now. Mm-hmm. Really crazy scene. And it's staying true to like the whole Injustice, like holy shit moments, you know. And then the end, like Joker kind of takes out some of his frustration on Harley, like throws her off the balcony, and she's like all beaten up and battered, and she leaves. She up and leaves. So I don't know if that's like his attempt to get her to seek refuge with some of the heroes, and then he's going to like manipulate her. So that's kind of how the issue ends. Pretty interesting stuff. 3 Jokers, issue 2. Did you read this one? Yeah. Interesting, I guess. Jason Todd goes off on his own after the first issue where he kills one of the Jokers. He's all, you know, angsty and upset. Batgirl goes to Batman and is like, hey, you got a criminal on your hands. He's going around killing these Jokers. Between what Jason Todd is investigating and what Batman and Batgirl are investigating, it kind of leads them to the same spot. Jason Todd gets there first, falls into the trap of 2 Jokers, gets the shit beat out of him. And it like breaks into the fact that like they kind of convinced him that Batman was the reason that you're going through all this shit, which they're not wrong, but also like they're beating him to death. So there's that. But you know, they find him and he's alive and stuff, and he's kind of like coming down from, you know, being beaten and all this stuff. So he's staying with Batgirl. Him and Barbara kind of kiss, but then they regret it, which is what I like. Like she regrets it and says that shouldn't have happened, which I'm okay with that. I mean, yeah, like that was just a moment of weakness for her, and maybe he was just feeling vulnerable or something. I don't know, but
it was also a moment where like he was talking about how basically connecting their 2 big moments of killing Joke and the death of Jason Todd.
Yep.
And them connecting over their like shared pain. So like it really fit in that moment really well.
Yep. I agree. And then it leads Batman to to find Joe Chill, and Joe Chill's in Blackgate Prison. Goes there, he's not there anymore because he has cancer. He's been moved to another wing. Come to find out, Joker now has Joe Chill and wants him to confess why he actually killed the Wayne parents. So apparently there's an ulterior motive here of why he actually killed Bruce Wayne's parents, and that's kind of how the issue ends, which is kind of interesting. So maybe that's linked to why there's so many different Jokers.
Yeah, and they also, during the Jason Todd stuff with the Jokers, like they were trying to push him to be the new Joker, the next Joker.
Yeah, so he might still be. I don't know. Yeah.
And I kind of hope that happens now.
Yeah,
and they made the comment like, you're the Red Hood. You know what happens after being the Red Hood, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. And he was kind of thinking about it, and really, there's not much more they can do with his character after like killing a Joker. You know, like where does his character go from there?
He's kind of a one-note guy, anyways. Like,
right.
I know there's fans of his out there that are mad at me. Yeah, he's the extreme Batman. Like that's basically what he is. So,
Batman Superman Annual #1, great issue, very meta. It's Batmite and Mixaplex fighting over who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman, and it's awesome. They kind of manipulate the world to fit their whole. I don't know, like I mean, they're manipulating the real world to fit their argument. So like Batmite makes his argument, and then Mixaplex makes his argument. It's a really fun story. But like Batman and Superman in the real world realize they're like something's going on here. Like we wouldn't actually fight each other, and they kind of like help them realize that too. Like we wouldn't actually fight, but there's like crazy scenes of like Mixaplex is like, well, I don't care. I just want 8 panels of them fighting. So then it's like 8 panels of Batman and Superman fighting, and it's really cool. It's a great issue. It was a lot of fun. And obviously the Batmite and Mixaplex. I mean those are always fun characters too.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 1984 #1. So this is a movie tie-in, and there's like 2 big hints at movie stuff, and then everything else is just filler. The 2 big hints are like this is going to happen in the movie, but we're not going to tell you anything about it. So it's a museum heist story. I think it sets up the fact that Minerva is who we know to be Cheetah. Is starting at the museum as a like a rocks minerals specialist. Other kids at the museum, they see all these weapons and stuff. They're like, oh, this is really cool, all these warriors. But also Wonder Woman kind of is, you know, not Wonder Woman right now. She's the museum curator, saying like, well, you need compassion, and a lot of these ancient fighting styles like samurai, well, not Vikings, but other warriors would always like choose violence as like a last resort. So something happens where there's a big museum heist for a diamond. She fights them off as Wonder Woman. The kids kind of help and have this newfound like it's a really feel good issue. They have a newfound like appreciation for being a hero and what it means. Meanwhile, at the end, there's a package that comes for Minerva, and it's from the FBI for her to identify something. So that's kind of what it is. Like, okay, you know, she's working there, and now she has a package. The FBI wants to investigate something, so bam, there goes the plot. I'm sure it's a weird stone that she has to investigate, or some type of gem, and that's probably where the whole plot unfolds. There's a second story in there with Steve Trevor and this young kid that's like stealing other kids to do work. I think the only reason that story was put in to really establish that Steve Trevor's back somehow, and they're working together. So yeah, I don't know if they're gonna just start off the movie with him being back, which this kind of tells me they might, which I don't really mind that, and then maybe we circle back like why he's there. Yeah, overall, I mean, it's a nice little intro for the movie. Not a whole lot tying to the movie, but Wonder Woman's cool. Legion of Superheroes #9. This is the issue with like 20 different artists. Basically, the Legion is on trial with the United Federation of Planets of like why they're there. Did they break any codes of bringing Superboy to their timeline? They probably did. You shouldn't mess with time. Basically, there's individual Legion superheroes talking to the Madam President, and each story has its own artist and kind of like an origin story for different heroes within the Legion. The Legion is pretty much off the hook, but they talk about there's a big darkness coming, like a war or something is approaching, and they need to prepare for it. At the end, Superboy's about to leave, and he kisses Saturn Girl. So I don't know if he's really going to leave now. It was a pretty cool moment because, you know, Saturn Girl can read minds, and she's like, well, you've been thinking about kissing me since you started, you know, got here, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, geez. So he kisses her naturally because he's Superboy.
So I'm behind an issue. I didn't read this one, but it's funny you bring up that with Superboy because not only Superboy show up in Action Comics in the current time, which they make sense of, like, hey, Superboy and Brainiac are here on vacation, and let's fight crime with them.
Yep.
But he randomly shows up in Teen Titans.
Oh.
Like I haven't talked much about Teen Titans recently, but like
Yeah.
Damian's gone insane. So I think this connects to what's going on in Batman. Like, isn't there a little kid called the Clown Hunter running around?
Yeah. Yep. There is.
I think that's gonna be Damian.
Oh.
Damian's like he killed one of the supervillains,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's denounced being Robin.
Okay.
And so the Teen Titans are coming around trying to basically like stop him and bring him to justice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Superboy shows up and is like, "Hey, I need to talk to him."
Interesting.
So like he jumps between time all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So he's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Dark Knight's Death Metal Metaverse. This issue revolves around Owlman, folks. I know
Multiverse's End.
Multiverse's End. Sorry, that's such a long title. These Dark Knight Metal books are just like, whatever, just give me the latest Dark Knight Metal book. Death Metal book. We talked about Owlman a couple weeks ago, and we got him, folks. We got him the whole issue. Captain Carrot's in this issue. Basically, this is the story of what Perpetua was doing to rid the multiverse. She's destroying all these planets within the multiverse. Well, one of the planets we get Earth X, right? We get Nazis. Like Chris is probably excited about that. Not only do you get Nazis, you get Captain Carrot punching Nazis.
Nazi superheroes.
And Captain Carrot's fighting them. Like Captain Carrot shows up. It's awesome. I mean, he has like conversations with Guy Gardner, like what the hell's going on. I think putting those two characters together was kind of funny. Basically,
it led to a really good joke that turned into a really sentimental moment later in the book.
Yeah, it was really sad to see all the zoo crews. Everyone died. It was like, holy shit.
Well, and Gardner goes to Jon Stewart, and this is like, it's been a really weird day. Like, I've gotten emotional support from a cartoon carrot, and something. He says something else, and John's just like, Captain Carrot's good, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Jon Stewart understands the life.
Right, he does. He gets it. Only 6 Earths remain, but Owlman has Jon Stewart captured, and the reason Owlman's doing all this, and the Justice League are trying to take back the towers that are using like the multiverse power, or harvesting the antimatter. I think some weird comic book science. But Owlman is upset because he was the original evil Batman. Like, he was the original evil counterpart Batman, which now you have the Batman Who Laughs, which is like, okay, but I was here first, dude. And that's the whole plot. Like, he's just upset that like okay, maybe, and he has conversations with Jon Stewart, like, okay, maybe I want to help Perpetua, but also I don't, because I was the original. And it's funny because like him being selfish about it, it's like that's true to his character as Owlman, right? And they talk about like the Owlmans throughout each crisis, and I was like, holy shit, this is like really good.
So John like tells him like, you may be the quote unquote original, but you're not the first Owlman.
Yeah. And
they talk about the 3 different versions of Owlman through different crises.
Right.
And he realizes like, even if the universe ends, Owlman will live on.
Yeah.
Which is really funny.
Yeah, like that's all he cared about.
So that was part of his big sacrifice, was like, okay, I'll sacrifice because I know when this is all set back to normal, there will be an Earth 3, and Owlman will be there. So, yeah, and it's awesome. The Rainbow Batman Corps shows up to, like, put a stop to the heroes from taking over the towers. We find out that Owlman, because he's Owlman, counterpart to Batman, he's already rigged all of the towers to blow up because he always has to have one up on everyone. One of the leader of the Rainbow Batman Corps is a baby Batman, and it's like he's got a jetpack. It's so ridiculous. It's MODOK Batman. It's MODOK Batman as well. I laughed audibly after seeing that, because I'm like, it's MODOK Batman. It's a giant fat Batman in a suit that makes him fly around with rockets on it. It's a MODOK Batman. MODOK Batman, for sure. It was a great story. Owlman blows up the towers, saves everyone, sacrifices himself because he knows he will be reborn within the multiverse. Awesome. And it's connected to the plot of what's going on with Perpetua, so I thought it was a great story. Yeah, Crime Syndicate, Captain Carrot. Yeah, pretty decent story, and they did like an evil version of the Rainbow Batman, which I don't know. I have a soft spot for Rainbow Batman. Yeah, everything about that's awesome. I loved it. It was
Yeah,
a great issue.
James Tynion, man,
And
got newfound respect for him.
yeah, and I gotta say, like, we have shit on James Tynion a lot over the years.
Yep,
He has really found his groove, and I think he's writing some really great comics right now.
for sure.
Obviously, I've not read Batman, but he's done a lot with this metal stuff, and I have a book that he did with Image that I'm going to talk about later. But
Cool.
he's turned into one of the top tier writers.
Oh, I skipped over this one. Rogue Planet #5. Did you read that?
I didn't.
So I'm pretty sure this might be the end to either the first story arc or the story as a whole. The remaining human finds a crashed ship where something is transmitting from it, like all the power that's happening on the planet is coming from. Basically, there's an alien life form within like a cryo sleep chamber in the ship, and he's a really strong telepath, and that's where all this shit's happening from. Like he's like almost like feeding on everyone's fears and like causing them to be scared. It ends up with like the woman kills the being that's like in the cryo sleep, and I think the end kind of insinuates that all the aliens kind of worship her now, and they built like a statue of her, or she's like crystallized. I don't. It's a lot of it's kind of like left up to speculation. But like one of the aliens says to one of the baby aliens, like, "Don't be scared. Like this is the final visitor that's like put an end to all of it." So like I don't know if there's a prophecy of that, or they already built a statue of her. All of them were scared not because of something that was on the planet. It was just this thing within a ship releasing psychic energy. It was a pretty cool ending. I'm curious to see if they're going to do anything else with it. I don't know. I feel like they resolved the issue on that planet. So, I mean, Colin Bunn, solid series. Justice League Annual #1. Rob Venditti doing Justice League. Basically, as a murder mystery, it was like Clue, murder in the Justice League headquarters. There's a lot of individual things going on with each Justice League member contributing, and that's what I like in my Justice League books. It's a solid issue. Basically, they find out the Eradicator head that they saved in the JL headquarters is controlling all the systems within the Justice League headquarters and turning them against all the heroes. And they have to team up, work together to beat it, which is really cool.
So it ties in with his early run then.
Yep, with the Eradicator, yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a solid issue. Shang-Chi #1. Awesome. This is the Marvel Kung Fu book I was waiting for, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. You got Jean Luen Yang on it, and DK Ruan on the art. So they give us the pre-story of the 5 original Deadly Warriors defended the village against Fing Fang Foom, who is the giant dragon, and how that branches out into the 5 weapon society. You have a sword, dagger, spear, fist, hammer. I think I got all of them. Yeah, so basically we flash forward to Shang-Chi is part of the fist. He's part of the fist weapons. And he's kind of out of that lifestyle. He's in New York. He's laying low. He works at a bakery. His father is dead, who was the head of the Society for the Fist. Basically, the Hammer Society gets pissed at what the Spear has been doing and kills him and takes over. So now the other societies come to him in New York City and are like, hey, so there's this sigil that lights up when someone who's the leader of all the other 5 weapons, when they die, it lights up one of the totems, and that's who the next leader is going to be. So Hammer just immediately assumed, I killed him, so I'm going to be the leader. No, the fist one lights up, so Shang-Chi has to be the leader now. But he's not in that lifestyle. So they come finding him. Basically, he finds out that the leader of the Hammer is in charge, and the Hammer is his sister. So he's thinking, I need to go save my sister from being the leader, but all she cares about is killing her brother because he's supposed to be the rightful leader of the 5 Weapons Society. It's really cool. I mean, it's Kung Fu. Each person is a specialist in a different weapon. I think that idea is really cool too. Yeah, I'm gonna keep up with it. I think it's an interesting story.
Cool.
And that's what I had this week.
So I also had Savage Avengers number 12. This was a getting the gang back together story. We haven't had this book since pre-COVID, so it's been a while since this book came out. But basically, we start with Doctor Strange and Elektra hanging out, banging. Will.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, we got to fight the sorcerer dude," and so they decide they're going to go and find Conan and recruit him back into the group so that they can go and try to kill this old sorcerer. Through a bunch of events, basically what ends up happening is we meet up with Conan. He has his moment, and we find out that not only did they go get Conan, but they also gathered more people for their group. So Wolverine's going to join the team. It was a big last page thing. Wolverine's going to join the team. Hellstrom's going to join the team. Dr. Voodoo will be on the team. Black Widow. So they got like a decent team going forward to try to take care of the sorcerer. It was a good issue. I forgot that I really liked Savage Avengers because it's just a very like basics. Like these are brawler, with the exception of Doctor Strange, obviously. Like just go out there, kill, take care of the enemy type characters. Marvel Zombies Resurrection number 2. So in this one, we find out that they're at one point during the zombie plague, S.H.I.E.L.D. decided they were going to take robots to fight the zombies.
Yep.
Because that's what you do with robots.
Of course.
So that's kind of the backstory to where our team goes and they fly over this part of New York that's been taken over by the robots. They created their own city. Okay. And it's kind of cool because you get into the city and like there's Nimrods, there's Vision's daughter. The Punisher has taken a experimental drug that turned him into a robot, basically. And a few others we meet there. And the zombies are fighting against them. And all these robot characters want to transform our Spider-Man and Franklin and Valerie into robots themselves, so that that's their way of saving them. Like if you're a robot, you won't be turned into a zombie, but that's not what they want. They want to keep their humanity. And then the whole city gets overrun by zombie Hulks.
Okay.
Scar shows up, Hulk, She-Hulk, any Hulk zombified, it's there.
All the Hulks.
And they have to run away. So it was a cool concept. Like I said, the first issue was very like horror bent. Less away from the superpowers and more just into the we need to survive the zombie apocalypse. And this kind of took a twist of, I mean, it makes sense. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. has a bunch of LMDs and different robots they could use. Of course they would use it to fight zombies. So I really like this issue.
Yeah, why not? Why would they use it?
Speaking of robots, I got X-Ray Robot number 2. If anyone remembers, once again, this book hasn't been out since before Corona. So we get to where we left off in the first issue, which was the robot from the future comes back and gets the team. And now they're in this space in between time. And he tells them, like, listen, when you created the X-Ray robot, you had the best intentions. You sent him back to go kill Hitler. You sent him back to save JFK and all these other major events. But what you did was create splintering timelines that are now about to collapse on top of each other and destroy all of existence. So now they have to go back and like fix everything along the way. So issue 2 was mostly them explaining like, this is the science behind what we're doing, and we're going to do that in the next issue. I still think it was really good. There's a lot of like moments of them floating in this weird space Speed Force like time thing. And Allred just kills it on the art, as he always does.
Of course.
Absolutely. I love X-Ray Robot. I'm so glad issue 2 is here, and I really recommend people check it out. And then finally, another Tinian book, Department of Truth, number 1. I'll throw it out there right now. Not a huge fan of the art in this issue. It's a little, I mean, it's stylized, but it's a very serious story and a very like down-to-earth story, and they use a weird style for the art. So take that in if you decide to read it. But basically, the story here is that this our lead character has been trolling these, like going down these groups of basically white nationalists and different conspiracy theorists online, and trying to figure out what makes them tick. Like that's what he's doing for his job. And he ends up going to this convention that's a flat Earth convention, and listening to all the speakers and talking to all the speakers. And then he meets these couple of billionaires who are like, listen, this is true. We can prove it to you. And they take him on the private jet, and they take him to the edge of the world.
Yep.
This is all done in the context of he's being interrogated by some FBI agent, basically a Mulder and Scully kind of situation.
Okay.
And he's telling him this whole story. And he's like, and we get there, and not only did, I see the edge of the world, but then your people showed up, killed everybody but me, and took me.
Oh.
And then we had to find out the guy's like, listen, what you saw, but what happens is when conspiracy theories take hold, they become reality. So for us to stop the Earth from becoming flat is to bring back people to science and say, like, hey, the Earth is round, and if you believe the Earth is round, the Earth will be round. And he goes into a lot of detail of, like, if we don't do this, like, how it works and how, like, it doesn't just turn flat. It's just, hey, like, this is how it's always been, so on and so forth. And there's some really cool moments in there if you're even somewhat into conspiracy theories. But what we find out is the guy that took him and told him, like, you're going to come and you're going to work for me. I want you to work for me. You know these groups. You know how they tick, and I need your knowledge to move forward with this department. And we find out the person in charge of the department is none other than Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought it was a really cool premise for a book. I want to follow it further. I think it's really cool.
Cool.
And I recommend it. If you like political thriller or conspiracy theories, stuff like that, he delves on a lot of that stuff. So
sounds interesting.
Yeah. That's all I had this week. So, Mike, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter. Where can they find you and or the show?
They can find me at Fortress Chris or on Twitter or at chrisrunt.com. That's CHRISRUNDT.com. I won't bore you with Battle Monsters because Mike already yelled at you in the beginning of the show.
Yep, bye.
Remember, if you're listening to us, to give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast you're using, to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below on the YouTube video. What else is there? Yes, patreon.com/sportscomicnews, where for $2 you can get the Bat Friends podcast 3 days early. And listen, you could have been 3 days on Bane's luscious cock. Like that's the kind of gold that you're missing out on.
Yeah. And you won't get me to talk about that on this podcast. I'm sorry.
And yeah, just go to the website. You'll see everything we do right there. And it's all good stuff. So everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.